After seeing the Scuderia on the front row so many times this year, it came as a huge shock at the end of qualifying when Sebastian Vettel was only 4th quickest ahead of Ricciardo. Rather, it was the McLarens who dominated today. Van Dorn taking pole with a 21.339, 7/100ths quicker than Hamilton, but nearly 2/10ths up on the Red Bull of Gasly in 3rd after the Woking-based team brought upgrades following the long summer break. Pierre's teammate aarava didn't seem to share the same pace, unfortunately, and will find himself behind the Ferraris, and with the young drivers of Giovinazzi and Verstappen sat just behind in what is a tense battle between Toro Rosso and Mercedes. Carlos Sainz was once again bested by his teammate during the Saturday sessions, but can take some solace in starting ahead of Wehrlein in P10. Just outside the top 10, but with free choice of tires, come the Renault boys locking out row 6. Magnussen once again ahead of Hülkenberg, but by a smaller margin than we've seen at previous points during this season.
What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 MyDriver career mode, episode number 9 today for the Hungarian Grand Prix. If you missed the last episode, that was uploaded on Monday, the Chinese Grand Prix, an absolutely epic, crazy race. Do go check that one out before you see this one. And yeah, we're moving on to the Hungarian Grand Prix after a bit of a summer break. Few little things have changed in the car order, so we'll see how it works out for everyone in the race ahead. But it's going to be a tricky one, because we can either do a 2 or 3 stop, and I'm not really too sure if I have the pace to do the 3 stops. We'll have to see. In qualifying, at least, Gasly definitely had one over, just couldn't get the rhythm, and I was losing quite a bit of time, especially through the final corner, just getting down on the power a little bit too later compared to the rest of the drivers on the grid. So I think it will be a bit of a difficult one ahead, but hopefully we can try and do some work with the tyre strategy, and it can work out, and hopefully we won't have any tyre wear issues like we had last time out in China. But we're going to go ahead to the starting grid. I'll hand you over to Justin.
Let's take a look now at the grid for today's Hungarian Grand Prix. It is not Sebastian Vettel or indeed a Ferrari starting from pole position or even on the front row, as McLaren, bringing upgrades after the summer break, have locked out that front row. Van Dorn taking pole with his teammate Lewis Hamilton alongside him. Then comes the Red Bull of Pierre Gasly in 3rd position. He will be joined on that 2nd row by Sebastian Vettel. Then comes Daniel Ricciardo in 5th position, just behind his German teammate, who's been getting the best of him most of the time in qualifying during this season. aarava will be starting the race from 6th position, with the sister teammate Antonio Giovinazzi starting behind him in 7th, Max Verstappen in 8th. That battle between Toro Rosso and Mercedes continuing on row 5, Carlos Sainz starting ahead of Pascal Wehrlein. Then on row 6, we have the 2 Renaults of Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg. Of course, they will have free choice of tire compound for the start of this race, which could be beneficial for them in the later stages. Leclerc for Alfa Romeo will start from 13th position. He'll be joined on that row by Romain Grosjean in 14th. Then comes Schumacher in 15th position, Bottas in 16th position for the Williams F1 team. Then comes Newgarden and Stroll in 17th and 18th, respectively. A difficult day for those 2 drivers. Nico Rosberg way down at the back in 19th. He's joined by Sergio Perez. A disappointing day for him in 20th position. And bringing up the rear of the grid is Sergei Sirotkin and Esteban Ocon.
So that's the starting grid. Let's get into this, shall we? We are going to 5 red lights for the Hungarian Grand Prix, the first race after the summer break. 5 red lights are out and we're underway. It's a pretty decent getaway from us. Gasly's bogged down ahead of us and Ricciardo's got a good start. He'll move to the inside of the track to try and make a move. Vettel will slipstream Hamilton and go down the inside into turn 1. We'll try and do the same on Ricciardo and Gasly, who gets squeezed out to the outside of the circuit. Vettel's been tapped by Hamilton's rear end there, so Vettel's lost a lot of momentum. We'll try and overtake him here. Yellow flags behind us on the mini-map, so something's gone on there. There might be an incident we'll have to look at later, but we're going to try and make a move on Vettel. Hasn't worked out around the outside, just too heavy on the car to make that maneuver work, but we're right behind him. We'll tuck in 4th place, so a pretty decent start for us, getting 2 positions off the start into turn 1. Ricciardo and Gasly really helped us there, squeezing each other out on the outside of the turn, but at the moment it looks like it's Van Dorn from Hamilton then, and then Vettel in 3rd, who got a pretty good getaway once again for 2 times in a row now after that new clutch improvement. Here's the getaway. Let's see what happened, because there was a yellow flag, so I think someone did get caught up in an incident. You can see the 2 Toro Rossos really fighting away at each other into turn 1. There's Vettel going down the inside of Hamilton, almost completely gets him, but then gets hit by him on the rear end. Oh, look at that, no, that was Gasly. That was Gasly who got hit round. Our teammate was the one who got punted, I think, by Ricciardo. So let's look at this. He actually got a really shocking start, Gasly did. Very, very contrasting to the one he got in China last time out. So he got a really bad start. He's looking in the mirrors. He's got Ricciardo down the inside and also me down the inside turn one. He gets squeezed out to the outside there. Going round. There's Ricciardo and oh, that is so unlucky. He looks like his right front tyre made connection with Ricciardo's left rear tyre and just a simple tap round. At least he hasn't lost a front wing, any bit of his front wing there, so he can still continue on. But, you know, down the order in last place now, so plenty of making up to do for my teammate Pierre Gasly. But we move on now to lap 3. You can see Van Dorn and Hamilton still leading a 1-2 for McLaren at the moment. So after the summer break, their upgrades have been working an absolute treat there. And they're already getting a gap to Vettel, who is now trying to brake check me on the exit of that swooping left-hander. He's struggling to keep up with the McLarens and now struggling to keep me behind. I move into the right-hand side, trying to scare Vettel maybe a little bit in the mirrors. I can see he's going slowly. We're going to make a little dive bomb move down the inside, through, up the hill. It will keep it on the inside, which will turn to the inside of the chicane. But Vettel will have the outside line, and this outside will turn to the inside of this left-hander. And so Vettel gets me back. I have to leave him in the room there, and that unfortunately means I couldn't squeeze him out in the middle part of the chicane. So he keeps that third place for now, and he's backed me into Ricciardo now, who's right behind me, and also the two Toro Rossos. And indeed also the Mercedes, who are looking pretty nippy at the start here. But now we move on to the main straight onto the very next lap. Got DRS, and we'll have the slipstream. Here we go, down on the right-hand side, down the inside, into turn 1. Vettel does well, though, to outbrake me, so I have to try and squeeze him out a little bit. But he's going to do well to hang it around the outside. We've got a little bit of oversteer there, so we're going to try and squeeze him onto the left-hand side. Still DRS, a second bite to the cherry there with DRS. You can see Ricciardo and the Toro Rosso also closing up on us, so we need to try and make this move and get it done round the outside of the German. Swoop round to the apex, and we've got it, but Vettel's got a good getaway off that corner, so he'll try and make a move. Ricciardo also come through on the move. There's been contact. Vettel and myself around. Vettel spun us out. Now, have we lost anything? Have we lost a tyre? I don't think we have. No, we've lost a bit of our front wing, but Vettel and I have made contact there, and Vettel has taken me out, it looks like. We got a safety car for that. Let's look at a replay and see what went on. So this was previously on the previous straight, so Vettel and I going side by side. I squeeze him quite aggressively there because I want to try and make this move. And obviously me and Vettel have not been exactly friends over the course of my F1 career mode here in MyDriver, but Vettel gets a good exit here as I swing across the apex, and he goes for a move here. He's got the space to make the move, but the thing is here, look at that. If we pause it here, this is where there's some contact made with Ricciardo on the right-hand side, and that means Vettel actually starts steering left into me, and I'm steering straight, giving him the room, but because he's moving left, he taps my rear tyre. We both spin round. Look at that. Ricciardo actually, luckily, escapes with no contact made, no kind of damage. So this is, from Ricciardo's perspective, so we can get a bit of a confirmation if he did make contact with Vettel or not. But you can see again me aggressively squeezing Vettel onto the left-hand side, then swooping back to the racing line. Here's Ricciardo just calmly waiting for his opportunity. Of course, I go around the outside, swoop across the apex, get a little bit less momentum here. Ricciardo gets a brilliant momentum, so he goes onto the right-hand side, and here is where the contact's made with this side pod. And look how lucky Ricciardo get. That's unbelievable. He got so lucky with that. So this is us now in what will be second last place. Coming to the pits, we actually overtake Gasly there, who obviously got spun round at the start, ironically again by Ricciardo. So Ricciardo's been in the wars today, certainly for the Hungarian Grand Prix, but I think that was Ricciardo's fault. I mean, it might be mine, it might be Vettel's, I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comments below. But I feel like, personally, I was steering very straight, leaving enough room for Vettel to come through. But obviously, I didn't know Ricciardo was going to come through, but that's Ricciardo's prerogative. Ricciardo didn't have to put his nose into that. He knew it was going to be a tightening corner, so I would say probably a racing incident. I mean, the FI haven't given anyone a penalty, it doesn't look like. They haven't given me a penalty, they haven't given Vettel one, and I don't think they've given Ricciardo one. So from the FI's and the steward's perspective, that wasn't anyone's fault. It was just unfortunate that three of us tried to fit into one corner, which is usually only meant for one car. We've seen in the past in real-life Formula 1, when anyone tries to make that too wide, usually someone gets pushed off onto the runoff. Anyway, under the safety car now, we've got Ricciardo. Again, getting very lucky. Ricciardo's now leading this safety car pack because the likes of the two McLarens have made their pit stops. They've pit under the safety car to get a free pit stop, effectively. So Ricciardo leads the way from the Toro Rossos and a few Renaults and the Haas cars. This is Van Dorn down the order a little bit in 7th place, but obviously he's already made his one pit stop for another set of soft tyres, that'll be, so a free set of softs. And so you could see then, in our pit stops, we actually got jumped by Vettel, so we're behind him now in last place in this Grand Prix. So yet again, we've got some coming back to do in this Grand Prix, probably more than we'd had to in China, but let's try and make a move very early on against Vettel. I'm getting very frustrated with this guy, so I make a very bold move quickly, straight on the restart of the safety car, get past him because I want to get a move on, don't want to worry about him and fighting Vettel later on in the Grand Prix. So now we close up to Perez, who's in a bit of a train here behind Verstappen, and also another car, which I think might be, is that our teammate? I'm not too sure, but this three-car train's really going to help us. Yes, it is Gasly there. So this three-car train's really helping us out here to close up to these guys. He's going to try and make a good move. We close up on Perez. We get a good run on his worn-out super softs. At the same time, Verstappen makes an identical move on my teammate Gasly, so we make the same move there, and we're up the position. Gasly gets squeezed out, so we make another bold move down the inside, wasting no time at all to make that move on Gasly. And of course, Gasly and Perez will both be struggling on those super softs, especially Gasly, because he went for a spin, and he actually comes into the pits right now. You can see on that replay camera and also on that little message there. So he's going to come in probably for the medium tires, I'll be guessing, just like me, to try and go long here in this Grand Prix. But anyway, move on later into the next lap. All right, on the back of Max Verstappen now, and we'll try and make the move on the right-hand side. DRS has only been enabled now, so we don't actually have DRS to help us at the moment, so just pure slipstream down the inside. We'll try and squeeze him out on the apex, but he's got a good run and good traction actually. That Mercedes isn't too bad on traction, but we'll do a fake and go down the inside now. So Verstappen thought I was going to hang it around the outside. No, I've done a switch back there and squeezed him out. We've made that move, and oh wow! Oh, Verstappen tapped Perez, I think, round. And that's going to cause a bit of controversy. I don't know what Verstappen was thinking there. He got squeezed out. Looks like he got so peeved off by being overtaken by me, he decided to take someone else out. So let's see a little replay here. So there's the very, very audacious, aggressive move to the inside from me. That worked out quite well, if I do say so myself. And then look at this. Verstappen, just no kind of spatial awareness for Perez, and just knocks him out there. I mean, I guess you could say that's a racing incident, I think, but then Perez in a very awkward position to try and come back on track, so he kind of parked it there. We've moved on now to lap 11, though. Ricciardo sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so I think he's still leading the way here, the Hungarian Grand Prix, so he's got some really decent pace, and that's even more annoying to the fact he's got so lucky twice in this race not to come out with any damage to his car, and he's going well at the moment, so it looks like he's looking likely to maybe at least appear on the podium with the two McLarens. There's been yellow flags. Who's this with an engine blowout? It's Joseph Newgarden, and he's out of the race. He's actually doing quite well here. We lock up, trying to avoid the back of Carlos Sainz, and that yellow flag's not helped us out because it's actually bunched all of us up. This train ahead, which is now being led by Grosjean, was being led by Newgarden, and that's actually allowed Verstappen and Vettel behind me to close up. You can see in the mirrors and the proximity arrow, two of the proximity arrows, Vettel and Verstappen like sharks behind me in the mirrors there. So we've got DRS off Sainz to help us out a little bit, but that yellow flag was really poorly timed. You can see, look how many cars there are on one straight here, all bunching up. It's such a close fight race right now at the moment. We go down the inside of Carlos Sainz. I've caught him napping down the inside there, and so we made the move. We got a second bite of the cherry with DRS to get away from him now, and now we find ourselves behind the Russian in the Audi. Sirotkin will go round the outside of the Audi. Obviously the Audi very, very poor downforce. We make it round the outside, swoop across the apex to get that move and chop him off there, and we're up into 8th place now, so we're getting a move on and already into the points. I'm not too sure, honestly, if this is actual points or it's because people are out of sync of this Grand Prix, and we almost smack into the back of Erline as the safety car is called out now, a second safety car in this race. Now I wonder, was that for something right behind us with Sirotkin, maybe the two Ferraris and the Mercedes car? I'm not too sure, but we look at a replay now of Newgarden here. So this was him ahead of Van Dorn, or is that Hamilton? I think it's Hamilton, but you can see Hamilton overtakes him. There's the engine blowout, so I'm really unfortunate there. I actually feel sorry for the American because he was doing quite well ahead of Grosjean, his teammate, and also pretty decent at the moment. I don't think he's made a pit stop in this race yet, so he's looking decent. But anyway, that was him out of the race, and then we move on to this little clip of Vettel and Verstappen. I was actually incorrect. Ricciardo's not leading this Grand Prix. He's actually made a second pit stop already, but that's actually testament to how fast Ricciardo was going. He's already made an extra pit stop, and he's already behind the likes of Vettel, Verstappen, and myself. But you can see a lovely battle there with Vettel and Verstappen going side by side. Vettel squeezes Verstappen out, and that means Verstappen loses out to Ricciardo, so the two Ferraris working well together. You can see no contact was made, so I actually don't know what that safety car was for. I think it must have been for Newgarden maybe, but now, after all of that, Van Dorn finds himself back in the lead of this Grand Prix, so all along, Van Dorn has been in net first place here, so looking good. Obviously got pole position, looking very, very strong for this race. I'm not too sure about Hamilton though. He's down the order behind myself and Verline, and you can see Sainz behind myself We can see Ricciardo right behind Sainz as well there. So that's a real big testament, I think, to Ricciardo personally, I think, because he's already made an extra pit stop, I believe, on top of all of us, and he's already caught up to us. So he's got some great pace on what I believe are soft tyres. So we could really find ourselves in a bit of a situation where Ricciardo is fighting the two McLarens. I'm not really too sure where we are in all of this, honestly. I would like to think we're actually here legitimately somewhere in the top 4. That would be quite cool to be, considering we're in last place at one point in this Grand Prix, but we'll have to see. But you can see some people come into the pits, making another pit stop. We continue on. Now, I initially thought this might have been a mistake because I was regretting staying with Wehrlein and the Toro Rosso up ahead, I think it is, or maybe Van Dorn up ahead to stay out here. But then, moving later on into the Grand Prix, move on to lap 15, we're in P4 at the moment. I'm looking around me, and it looks like we're looking okay. We're right behind Wehrlein. We've got a Renault coming to the pit, so at the moment, I think it's Giovinazzi that is, or Van Dorn, I can't quite see. I think that's Giovinazzi leading the way at this Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton is out of this race, so twice in a row now, Hamilton is going to DNF in Grand Prix. What poor luck for him, but we're now trying to close up on Pascal Wehrlein, but that is, I still can't see what name that is. I think that's Van Dorn. Yeah, that's Van Dorn still leading the way in this Grand Prix, but you can see Van Dorn first, Wehrlein second, myself third, so actually, now I'm thinking not too bad that we stayed out here. If we can maybe make these medium tyres go a long way into about lap 20-21, we could make this work and actually be up here fighting for the win, because Van Dorn comes in, Wehrlein comes in, and now we're leading the Grand Prix. And so now the job we've got to do is I'll make these tyres go to lap 21, because you remember back at the strategy screen, it was either a 2-stop or a 3-stop. I chose the 3-stop, but there was a 2-stop available of going to lap 20 on mediums, then going on to the soft tyres. But this is how Hamilton got knocked out of the Grand Prix in quite spectacular fashion. Gets knocked and kind of a bit of ping pong there with the Williams car and Force India. So he goes very slowly in second gear, gets stuck in second gear, and then spectacularly gets his wheel punted off by the Williams car. But initially, it was actually a problem with his gearing. He got stuck in second gear. So it was actually a mechanical failure before he actually got knocked out by the Williams. But now we move on later into the Grand Prix. Ricciardo now, as I mentioned before, really good pace. He's right up my chuff now. I'm struggling on these mediums, but Ricciardo comes in for an early pit stop now, so he's going to try the undercut with us. We continue on, because I know from previous experiences that I can only take the soft tyres around Hungary for only about, at a push, 9 laps, I'd say. Probably safe to say 7 laps, really, before they start wearing out quite a bit. So I need to try and stretch these tyres as much as they can go. And they're not looking too bad. They still have some decent pace, I feel like. So we'll see how that goes for us. But meanwhile, behind us, this is Sebastian Vettel. Now, we might be fighting for, I can't believe I'm going to say this, for the win, potentially, after being in last place. Meanwhile, Vettel, not the same fortunes. He's stuck behind 2 cars there down the order. But you can see the Ferrari comes out of Ricciardo out the pit lane, and you can see he's just only 2 positions behind Van Dorn, who obviously was leading this Grand Prix. So Ricciardo's also up there fighting for the lead potentially by the end of this Grand Prix. But that also shows that once again Van Dorn and McLaren have really got their strategy very, very wrong. And you can see Van Dorn tries to make a move on Perez here. He gets very, very close. Oh my god, he gets squeezed off there. What torrid luck. Now Van Dorn finds himself behind Ricciardo, so that must mean Ricciardo technically is in a net first place, because Van Dorn was leading this Grand Prix before he made his pit stop. So he goes off, and so that must mean Ricciardo is actually leading this Grand Prix once everyone makes their pit stops. That's amazing. So unfortunately for Van Dorn, again, he finds himself probably out of contention for this race lead. He really didn't have to try and make that move on Perez, but even before that, let's go back to his team. Why is he even there in that position? They have done yet again another blunder for McLaren. I mean, it's so unlike them. That's how Van Dorn won his championship in 2016, by making good strategy calls. But McLaren, they should have had Van Dorn out and away, leading this Grand Prix by so many seconds. But why is he there fighting Force Indias and Mercedes cars? But anyway, getting back to our POV, we set the fastest lap of our Grand Prix so far on these very worn medium tyres. So doing quite well at the moment to fend off Giovinazzi there. As we move on to the second sector though, Giovinazzi is closing up to us. We lose the back end through that left hand, and Ricciardo is out of this Grand Prix. I can't believe it. Daniel Ricciardo, who I believe was probably going to be leading this Grand Prix in net first position, is out of this Grand Prix. Has he got an engine failure? Has he crashed with the Toro Rosso? Let's see what goes on. He's in the second sector now, climbing up the hill, trying to cruise up, and it's an engine failure for Daniel Ricciardo. What calamities for Ferrari.
Save it. Nothing you can say could make that any better. Just save it.
And Ricciardo is quite rightly peeved off there at Ferrari. Ferrari have got some real good looking at themselves to do. They've got one of the fastest car on the grid. Outright, over the course of the season, they've probably had the best car. Obviously, now McLaren have got the better car for this race weekend. And Red Bull, my team, have looked pretty decent at some downforce-heavy circuits. But they've had the best engine. They've had, overall, over the course of the races, the best car. But the reliability's not been there, and they need to really take a good hard look at themselves. That's 2 engine failures in a row there for Ferrari. For each car. Vettel last race and Ricciardo this race. And Ricciardo, quite rightly, just like Vettel was last race, is quite peeved off with his own team there. So I don't know where this leaves us. Are we now leading the Grand Prix, technically, in a net first position? Because I think we are right behind Ricciardo in all of that. I'm not too sure. We'll have to just continue on and try and plough on. So we made a pit stop there for the soft tyres, and now we'll go to the end of this Grand Prix with 8 laps to go. We'll get right behind Mick Schumacher there in the Alfa Romeo. Don't quite make a move because we just can't make that stick. But we've got Van Dorn right behind us. So actually in all of that, and with Van Dorn's excursions off track, Van Dorn still might actually be in contention for this lead, because if I'm leading this Grand Prix after these guys make their pit stops, that means Van Dorn's fighting me for the lead. So we could have quite a classic battle on our hands with Stoffel Van Dorn here by the time we get to the end of this Grand Prix. But we cross the line. Obviously it's setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix for ourselves personally. We're in 3rd place at the moment, Verline's 2nd, and I believe that's him fighting a Toro Rosso. I don't know which one it is, of Sainz or Giovinazzi, but both of them scrapping away. But I think they both have pit stops to make. So we close up on Verline. Good pace against the German, and he comes in now for his pit stop. Giovinazzi is the one that's leading the Grand Prix at the moment. He continues on, so Verline comes in. So now it's Giovinazzi from myself, and I think it's Van Dorn in 3rd place. Let's take a look once it updates, because Verline's still coming down the pit lane. But we go into turn 1 with DRS, trying to push hard, try and catch Giovinazzi, because we need to make sure that if Giovinazzi is not making a pit stop, we need to make this overtake. But that would be quite surprising, but quite extraordinary if yet again a Toro Rosso is leading a Grand Prix. But it looks like Rosberg now is in 3rd place. How on earth has that happened? Has Van Dorn made another pit stop? But this is later on now. A lap later, Rosberg makes his pit stop now. So the Audi, the German in the Audi, making quite a spectacular gain. But he has to finally come in. This is Pierre Gasly, our teammate, who was last place as well, climb of the order. So it's a spectacular race for the 2 Red Bull cars, you've got to say here. Myself and Gasly both in 2nd and 3rd now, after being last respectively in this Grand Prix at one point earlier on in the Grand Prix. But now we are pushing on with about 5 laps to go, trying to catch up to Antonio Giovinazzi. But we've got issues. Where's Gasly's come out of nowhere? We've got problems. We've gone slowly. Gasly's overtaken us. We've gone across the chicane. We've got issues now in this Grand Prix. Big issues across the grass. What is happening to our car? I think there's a bit of smoke coming out of our car. The Haas car overtakes us. The Renault is closing up to us. And we're going very, very slowly in this Grand Prix. And I hate to say it, I think this might be an engine failure for us. Oh, come on. This can't be happening. We've got the Mercedes going round us. Sainz goes round us. The other Mercedes of Verline going round us as well. And we've got big issues. Onto the main straight we go, and the engine starts to smoke even more there. And there's Sebastian Vettel closing up on us, and big smokes and fumes coming out of our car. The engine doesn't sound healthy. And there is Vettel going past us there. And our race is going up in smokes and up in flames at the moment. We're trying to struggle on. I'm hoping the team maybe have some sort of reset they can do to try and make the car, continue on. Maybe I can get 1 point in this Grand Prix. But no, it's not looking likely. The smoke builds on. And now in neutral, the car is giving up. It's on its last legs. And I have to pull over here. This is race over. Twice in a row, I'm not going to get points. But this time it's even worse. The engine's gone up in flames. And because of all this mayhem of my engine blowing up, this means quite spectacularly, we're going to see twice in a row a Toro Rosso crossing the line to win an F1 Grand Prix. This time it's the Italian of Antonio Giovinazzi coming across the line to win the Grand Prix. Gasly comes home in 2nd after being last, but what a story this is now of the season.
Grandissimo Antonio, grandissimo. Grazie ragazzi.
This is unbelievable. This is quite remarkable. A Toro Rosso has won 2 Grand Prix in a row now. This just puts into question everything of this season, this entire dynamic of the Red Bull family. What does this mean for the structure of Red Bull if their junior team, supposedly, are beating them twice in a row to a race victory? This is just insane. Even this... I can't quite... I'm saying that. 2 Toro Rosso victories in a row. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Gasly comes home for 2nd place in this Grand Prix after being last at the start, and that means Pierre Gasly will lead this Grand Prix, will lead this championship, in his championship. 105 points to Vettel's 92 now. Vettel equals my points tally now. We dropped down to 3rd because obviously Vettel got the higher place position now in this last Grand Prix. Ricciardo and Hamilton failed to score points. Giovinazzi climbs up above Van Dorn, showing just how poor and how unlucky Van Dorn's getting this season. Giovinazzi in 6th place of this championship. What a remarkable story this is at the moment. What a development. Who could have thought Toro Rosso coming out of nowhere to win 2 races in a row? I mean, they didn't have the pace for this Grand Prix either. I mean, last time out it was tyre wear. There wasn't tyre wear in this Grand Prix. It was just the fact all the top runners making mistakes. McLaren had the pace for a 1-2. Ferrari had the pace to maybe challenge them for a 3-4. And Red Bull, well, we were there fighting the Ferraris, but out of nowhere, Toro Rosso go from fighting Mercedes cars to battling away and finishing ahead of a Red Bull to win another Grand Prix. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Guys, if you have enjoyed this episode, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought of that crazy, crazy Grand Prix yet again. And that is another sensational Grand Prix. I'm speechless yet again. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And you're to subscribe for weekly F1 content. I've been Ever. Home Joris today. We've got some thinking to do. We need to think about this Red Bull dynamic, because what is going on here now? What is going on? We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.